Yes, so Ron, really, it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak about this new album, about you, about your band, about all your story, because it's incredible. You did so many things. But perhaps I will you tell me bonjour in French because you speak a little French. I know that you have a great story with France because you play a lot. You do a tour in France before when you are alone as a Bumblefoot. You play with some French guitarists too. You have Fanalo. You have a guitarist on this tour. Great guys. And you play on his solo album, which just coming out too. So how do you feel? And I see that also Uncool, one of the first album long time ago, was at the beginning only released in France. And that's why there is this incredible story.
And guitar, French, Vigier.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yes,
Great. Uh,
definitely. And I've worked with Christophe Godin, and uh,
Patomé,
there was
Patomé.
the a Tour de la Guitare in 2015, the tour with Paul Person and Axel Bauer. So many things, yes. Oh, and Pat O'May, we worked together. Pat O'May,
Yes.
we've done since 1998. We've done things. So yes, half my life has my musical life has been in France. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So what represent finally France for you? I am in Paris. You are in the USA. What is the France for you and the French fans because you have a lot of fans too in France. If you can tell me what is France for you, what will you say as a musician, of course, and you own being?
France for me has been like a second home that I don't get to visit often enough. It is the first place that accepted me to start touring internationally. It's the only guitars I play since 1997, Vigier guitars. It's so many friends that I still stay close with, talk to, and sometimes every day. Yeah, it's just a very, very big part of my life. And I still can't speak French. It's terrible.
Next
It's such a
time.
crime. It's criminal. It's awful. I should be able to speak it. And you know what's even worse is that in high school, junior high school into high school, I took 7 years of French as a second language, and I never paid attention. I was like, oh, I'll never need to know this. And I would just be just not paying attention in class and just like writing music and just doing whatever else. And sure enough, fate has its sense of humor. And the very first place I needed to, when leaving the US and to start touring, France.
Yeah.
And I'm kicking myself. I was like, I should have paid attention in school. There you
You
go.
are
Lesson learned.
you are the sort of a French guy in your in one part of your life. Finally, yeah,
Well,
I can call you the French guy.
I am a terrible French person. I make a very poor French person. First of all, my accent is awful. My New Yorkese accent. Quand je parle français, mon accent est terrible. It's terrible.
Yes, but I understand very well you. Je te
Well,
comprends très bien.
merci. No, it's because you have good ears. I have a bad voice, but you have good ears.
Yes, yes. Just about you, about this new album, your return on instrumental, 30 years after the last album you record, finally only with guitar. Finally what pushed you? How was born this idea to you get an album 10 years ago? Also a solo album, I mean, but it's not totally instrumental. What was the idea finally to say, yeah, I will do a new one, only guitar with a lot of great friends on the album, really, and how everything began finally in your head to work on a new solo album.
It was the pandemic and having so much time, and finally having the time to do all the things that there was never time made to do. Constantly touring and working with other bands and just going and going and going, and then boom, it all stops. And suddenly there is time to do all those things that you always think, maybe someday I'll do that. So the first album I ever put out, my debut album ever, Shrapnel Records. It was an instrumental guitar album in 1995. And before that, I only wanted to do vocal music. I love rock bands, metal bands. That's what I wanted for my life, is to be part of a rock band with a singer, everything that I grew up listening to that I loved. I didn't listen to instrumental music growing up. No, I listened to Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and the Who and Ozzy and Maiden and Priest and AC/DC and everything, and Queen, of course, everything. And that's what I loved, and that was the path I wanted to stay on. I would play some instrumental songs. I would put them on my other albums. Like I did the one instrumental album in 95. After that, right back to doing singing and vocal albums. And once in a while, I would put in just maybe one song or two songs, a few songs in the album, the same way Van Halen would put Spanish Fly
Yeah.
or just have a guitar song. So I would do that, but the main thing, like the album was a vocal album. And then just, I had Shrapnel Records, the deal. We did 2 albums. The second album, called Hermit, it was licensed to Roadrunner France. And they were the ones that brought me to France to do like clinic tours and things like that. And they opened that door. And that's where my life in France began. And I remember doing one of those clinic tours, and somebody from Vigier Guitars was there and asked me to try one of their guitars. And I would always build my own guitars, or I should say, I would always destroy my own guitars. I would take a guitar and modify it and make it my own, and it was awful. I don't know how to build guitars. So I tried a Vigier guitar, and incredible. It played so much better than the guitars that I modified and was using. Like I had my Swiss cheese guitar that I would always play. And then I played a Vigier Excalibur, and it would be stupid to play anything else. It felt so good on the fingers. It was a perfectly built guitar. And I met with Patrice Vigier, and he was such a sweet person with such a good soul. And I just knew this was somebody I wanted in my life. And from that point on, I played Vigier guitars. And even the company, Patrice, he's stopping Vigier. He's not building any more guitars, but he agreed to still make my crazy double neck guitars. So I am not going. Yeah, I'm not going to go to another company and get an electric guitar endorsement from another company. I'm staying with Patrice for as long as he will build guitars and as long as I play guitars. I'm staying with him. And after Shrapnel Records, I started my own record label, and just to put out my own music. So I got different distributors, and there was a wonderful guy named Remy Moreau, who was my distributor in France for years until sadly he passed away a few years ago. But a wonderful guy, and we got a lot of music to French ears thanks to him. And yeah, and I would always come back and play shows in France whenever I could. I would do solo tours. My backing band was Finalo and El Mobo from the band Plug In, and they were my band and the best band I ever had. Fantastic. And I would do shows with Christophe Godin and Morgul Trio and everything. Yeah, France was always a big part of my life musically. It was always, yeah, and I would always look forward to it. Any other band I played with, when we would tour France, I'd be making plans to see mes amis whenever possible. And yeah, it was good. So, yeah, and I'm proud to have played a song on Finalo's new record. It's a fantastic album. I love Finalo's new album. And my Sons of Apollo bandmate, Jeff Scott Soto, sang on it as well. And it's good. It's all the family, all interacting. It's nice.
Yes, it was a real family. You are friend with a lot of musicians. You just come back from the 18th of January. You play in a All Star something like that. It was with a lot of friends to you. Incredible direction, and of course Dino Gelusi, Eric Martin, Gary Sharon from Extreme, Nuno Betancourt.
They canceled the show at the last minute. They moved it to September. Yeah, it was something where the government needed the stadium, so they moved the show. So at the very last minute,
my God.
So we didn't get to do it. Yeah, so it's all the way in September. I know, I was so excited about that because also I would go to Indonesia a lot. I love the spicy food and friends there, so.
You're a specialist of the spicy.
Yes. Okay, so now it's 2015, and the last solo album I put out was Little Brother Is Watching. And from there, put out an album that I produced and played on, a band Art of Anarchy. It had Scott Weiland on vocals, and then he passed away. Then went to France and did a 6-week tour with Paul Person and Axel Bauer and Larry Carlton and trying to remember everybody's names. My brain is still not awake yet, but it was fantastic. And it was called Autour de la Guitare. It was a concert with almost like comedy sketches in between and little things, and it was wonderful. So did that in 2015. 2016, more touring, playing all over the place. 2017, deuxième Art of Anarchy album avec Scott Stapp from Creed. Chante. So he was singing, and also began the band Sons of Apollo. And we put out our premiere album. And then 2018, touring avec Sons of Apollo in France. And then 2019, I put out one instrumental song, just digital, put it out, and started writing the second Sons of Apollo album, and started producing this wonderful band called the Dodies, Dodies, fantastic band. They're a duo. The singer plays guitar. His voice sounds almost like Justin Hawkins from The Darkness, but very interesting and very deep lyrics. The drummer, he plays the entire drum set with just one arm and plays bass on a keyboard and sings backing vocals while doing all that. And then sometimes he'll grab the other drumstick, play both, and the guitarist will hit a pedal that sends his signal as a low octave to a bass amp. So it's like they take turns being the bassist. and fantastic songs. So I started producing their albums. Their third album is coming out very soon, but great, great albums. They are a band that should play in France. I think people would enjoy. So I was keeping very busy with other bands. And 2020, oh, well, 2019 also with Asia, singing and playing guitar
Yes.
with the band Asia as well. So did that. And then 2020, Sons of Apollo released our second album and began to tour, and pandemic. So right back in this chair for a years, and then from there, I had all this time. So I thought about everything people would ask me if I would ever do another acoustic EP that I did in 2008. So I did 2 of them and put them on Bandcamp. I had another song that we didn't use for Sons of Apollo. So I made an instrumental song and called it Planetary Lockdown and put that digital out. And then at that point, it's like, I just put out 2 songs digitally. And I was writing a third Art of Anarchy album and what could have been the third Sons of Apollo album, but obviously that didn't happen. And it became the band Whom Gods Destroy, a similar band, but just a little more intense. Still with Derek Sherinian as my bandmate. And then we got Dino Jalusic on vocals. But I thought about, many people asked, would you ever do an entirely instrumental album again? So why not? So I started writing. Yeah, so I already had 2 songs that I did digital. It's like, okay, I already have 2 of the album songs for the album already. So let's keep going with it. Because for me, usually the hardest thing is that very beginning, just pushing the boulder, that very first push. And just having those 2 songs made it much easier to just keep writing and writing and writing. And I just kept writing. As I wrote Whom Gods Destroy, crazy metal riffs, those ended up peppered around the album in different areas, like the opening of the first song, that crazy riff in Simon in Space.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like something from Whom Gods Destroy. It was because I was in that same brain place of writing. And just anything that I would have sang, nope, no singing, and just play the guitar. So lots of singable melodies on the album, things that I would have sang, but instead the guitar gets to sing. Finally, there's enough room for the guitar to do everything, not just, There's
yes, it's very melodic. There are a lot of songs that are very melodic. There are also a classic of Chopin. Incredible songs that you play on guitar. Very, it's a song of Chopin that we could hear in many movies or something like that. I think about The Pianist. If you see the movie The Pianist, Polanski, when he was alone. At the end of he plays this song, and you on piano, of course, and you do the same thing, but on guitar. Incredible.
The crazy metal version. And the funny thing with that song is it's actually an older recording that I did for a video game that was released in Poland to celebrate Chopin's birthday. And it was released in 2010. It was like a Guitar Hero rock band type game. And my agreement with them is that someday, if I want to, I can put it on my own album as well. So I had my drummer, great, phenomenal drummer. He played all the crazy drums on this album. His name is Kyle Hughes. He's from the UK and lives in the US now, and phenomenal drummer. And he played all the crazy drums on that. And I added more orchestration to the middle. And so that's now 3 songs I had for the album. Getting there, moving it forward. And then the first song that I wrote thinking, okay, I'm going to start writing for this album. It's going to be an album. I took a riff that I had from when I was 19 years old in 1989. And it was a riff that just stayed in my head all these decades that I never turned into a song. And it was just this thing when. So the first thing I did is I hit record and I just played the riff. And then started arranging, saying, okay, 4 times, and the drums come in. And just threw down a random bass line, just whatever I played, and then just started humming a melody and played it on guitar. And like 2 times of that, and then where to go? You know what? Let's build up the band in full and heavy guitars and change the chords underneath the melody so that the melody has a different meaning compared to these new chords. It was really kind of a. And then where to go from there? Let's give it a lift. So it's almost like a flat 2 to the 5, feeling like it's going to resolve back to that, which is one of my favorite resolves, when instead of doing the jazzy 2, 5, 1, flatten, darken that 2. And it's just it's more dramatic. So I always love doing, make this its own part, give it its own movement. Let's go darker with it. Boom, 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 back into it. And then there was a lot of space. I just pictured an open space to just jam for a middle solo. And then I thought about, well, it might be cool if I had a guest and because I wasn't really thinking about having any guests on the album, but like, you know what, this song, it would be cool. There's so much space. Why not trade back and forth with another guitar player? And I thought, who would be a good person to do that with? And I thought about where the riff came from in 1989. It was when I was in my first guitar magazine. It was the first legitimate thing that happened, that went from just playing locally to having more national recognition. And from that magazine, somebody wrote to me. They wrote me a letter. And it was this teenage kid from England named Guthrie. And he's like, hi, my name is Guthrie Govan. I'm a guitarist. I would love to hear your demo. And here's mine. And we became pen pals, and we would write each other letters and send each other cassettes. And we've been friends. Yeah, and we were friends ever since. And anytime I was touring in the UK, we'd see each other, and he would join me on stage. If we went to the NAMM music convention and we were both there, we would just sit on the floor for an hour and just jam. And we were guitar buddies since 1989, since we were teenagers. So I asked him, and he did. So that completed like the circle of life from 1989 for this song. I should have called the song 1989, but then people might expect it to be a hair band song.
Yeah.
So I thought about like something that had meaning, and how the two of us would always seek new ideas and growing and learning and experimenting. And the word anveshana, that's what it means. Seeking more knowledge, enlightenment. And I felt it fit his personality and the way we both just were. So that's why I called it that. Yeah.
So finally, when you write songs, you show me with the guitar and everything. I have the impression, but I think it's an impression, that it's very easy for you to write songs, instrumental songs and songs.
It really is. I picture something, or I experience something, or I feel something, and it's very easy to just say, to tell the story musically. And it's because I spent decades making music for TV shows and horror movies and video games. And so I visualize something and then I say, what would be the sound version of what I'm seeing? And try and use just the music language to describe and make people see that same vision from the music. So like the song Simon in Space, you know, it felt like it was a space adventure where you're dodging asteroids and then it comes up and you see these beautiful, colorful clouds of, you know, nebula. And then it's like, oh, here it comes again, dodging it all. And it should feel like a big adventure by the time the song is over. It should make you feel like, wow. And that was the goal with that. And every song was something. It was, I think of it almost like a photo album, an old photo album of like, here's what I did from when I wrote the first song to the last song. And here's all the places I went and the things that happened. Here's a funeral I went to. Here was a party I went to. Here was this, here's that. And every single one is different. And every song feels different, as they should. I don't want it to be the same story told 14 times. No, I want it to feel like, okay, this is a piece of somebody's life that they lived and all the different things about it. Like each one is its own short story in a way that only is completed at the very end. It starts with Simon in Space, which is Simon is my cat.
Yes.
And that's really him.
I try to show you. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Your cat, Simon.
That is really my cat.
Incredible story.
And he's my best friend. So in the end, the final song, Lift Off, I just imagine the same thing. Like every evening when he just jumps up on my lap, curls up in a ball, and he's out cold and just completely peaceful. I wanted a song that felt like a lullaby to him, like he's completely asleep at peace while the ship embarks on its next adventure, and he's taking the long trip there.
Yeah, finally, when I listen all the album, 70 music, but we don't. It's a sort of travel, you know, because all the songs are very different, and we can hear all the style, all the type of music, you know, and what you can play. It's totally incredible. It's very different from the first song to the last song. There is sad song like Funeral, very sad, very something special. There are funny song like Your Cat, Simon. It's why do you choose finally the first song of the album as a single? Because it's the long song. The Simon in Space is very long. And I see the clip, like you say, it's between video game and everything like that, with all these petty small parts we can say in the space. Why especially this song? Because you love too much your cat, Simon in Space.
Yes, everything. Yes, my life belongs to my cat, and he's just kind enough to let me come here and play guitar every once in a while. And it's funny how you really can, you know, souls bond, and it doesn't even matter externally if it's, you know, like a dog, a cat. It's really, there's a bond there that you have that's almost bigger than with a human sometimes. But it's that song I felt was a good example of what the album is like. It has heavy, it has melody, shows some, you know, guitar playing. It has crazy stuff, but also I like how I wanted it to be the unexpected, like not easing into the album. Like I wanted to like open the door and suddenly there's a tornado. And like you suddenly woke up, like you got woken up out of your sleep in the middle of a tornado. And it's like, what is going on? I wanted it to, the senses to feel like the first 10 seconds that you listen to this, you just woke up and you're trying to figure out like reality, like you're slapping your face and just waking up and slowly getting your brain back, like that strange feeling. So I wanted it to just hit almost with confusion, with a sense of chaos. So I wanted it to just
yes,
with extreme full chaos and just like a real, just complete pummeling, and then to take it from there. Yeah.
yes, it's a total universe, your own universe that you give us like a sort of present in your music. About yes, you have a lot of guests. You have two huge guests. I will say that too because I see yesterday I see a show of Queen on TV. You know, in Hungary. It was in 1986. It was in Budapest. And I see Brian May on stage, of course, and he plays so well, so clear. The sound is really so pure. I will say pure. From where? How do you have this idea finally to choose Brian May for this song, "Once in Forever"? Why especially on this song?
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote the song, I just had the idea of, I should take this off.
Yeah.
Just like a real drag to it and just a dynamic. And I thought, there's a very good friend of mine, Jerry Gaskill. He's the drummer from the band King's X. Incredible band. And
yeah.
he's a very good friend of mine. We
know
just had dinner this weekend. And so every time we're together, we would say, oh, we should do a song together. So I was thinking this would be the perfect song for him because he just has that Bonham type feel and that lag on the snare and just that dynamics. Pow, boom, boom, pow. And so laid down the song. He came into this room. I had a drum set up and we laid it down. And then just as I was putting the song together and I was picturing almost like a Clapton ballad that I could almost picture Eric Clapton singing it with the soft voice, you know. And I pictured like an Eagles type vocal harmony. And as it kept going, and then when it got to the middle part where there would be a guitar solo, and I pictured and pictured a riff there, answering it. Boom, boom. And all I could picture was Brian May. I just pictured his phrasing, his sound, his everything. And I realized, like, if I did it and I just did my tribute to Brian May, it would be just a poor imitation. The song deserved the real thing. So I asked Brian, I was like, would you lay the solo in that spot? And he did, yeah. And it made the song wonderful. It gave it that spirit that I couldn't. That I would just be doing the fake version. He was the matching puzzle piece for that song. And I could have shaved the edges of myself and tried to fit it in, but it would always just be trying to capture what he naturally has. So I'm grateful he laid it down and he gave it that exact And the just that Brian May thing, that magical thing he has. Yes. Yeah.
I suppose it was the same thing with Steve Vai.
Yeah, I
The
had
same
that song.
idea
Mhm.
for the song Monstruoso.
Monstro. Yeah,
Monstruoso.
like a Godzilla old 60s, 70s monster movie and a character Monstruoso and just writing the soundtrack to that. Just the old, some kind of just melody. And just all the dubstep kind of synth voice, you know, and when it all breaks down and goes into that whole thing, and that whole crazy thing, when it finishes and it slams back in, I just imagined a guitar solo there that sounded like it was from another planet. And I could have made some weird sounds and all, but to me, the best person on this planet to sound like he's not from this planet is Steve Vai. And if I wanted to sound like an alien and a monster and something from a different world, he's the one to do it. So I asked him if he would lay a solo, and he did. And it's the craziest thing to try and figure out what he did between this momentary switch that changes the pitch when he steps down on it, makes everything and a harmonizer under it at the same time, and it's just crazy stuff. Yeah.
When I see all this album, I think also about you could do a comic, you know? How did you say? I thought, yeah, you could do that because it's we are in this universe also a little comic, or I don't know, but do you think about that? Is it the idea, something like that?
I plan to, yes. The company that I teamed up with to do like retail distribution and Amazon and all of that, a wonderful company called Déco, Deko. And I'm actually going to work with them where now bands that I produce will get distributed by Déco Records. So it's like, yeah, it's this wonderful thing we have worked out, and they're handling my new album. But they do comic books also. So we are going to do a Bumblefoot comic book. A real, like a paper book, so an electronic one where you can click things and things open up and everything. Yeah.
Ah,
So
yeah.
we do a Bumblefoot comic book. I just need to come up with crazy ideas.
Just yes, you play with so many great guys. You play guitar since so many years, more than 30 years. What is for you, if you could describe it, a good guitarist? I know that it's not easy to, it's a tough question, but what is for you a good guitarist on stage? What is the definition for you of if you can say that?
A good guitarist, so many things. Honesty, where you feel like you know them from their music. You know who they are from the way they play. That. It doesn't matter if they're fast or slow or technical or clean or even just sloppy and nasty with an attitude. Someone who tells a story in a unique voice, to me, is a good guitarist. And after you hear them or after you see them perform, it should be like walking away from a delicious meal that you just ate, where you're like holding your stomach like, that was good. I could go to sleep. I'm such a food coma. That was amazing. Oh, I can't wait to eat there again. And you want to tell people about how delicious it was. It should be the same thing, that when they play, when you hear their music, you feel something inside that's changed, that's lifted, that you want to just tell people about. It's like, this was so good. It just added something to me inside. That's a good guitar player.
Just to finish about you, because like you say, you write for music, TV. You're also a producer. I see that you produce. How is it you produce the album too? How is it finally to produce the album, to write the music, to play guitar too? Is it a challenge finally to be also the producer of your own album?
No, it's easy. You just, you don't have to think. You don't have to, you just let everything out. Everything, it's, my attitude towards it is when I do a solo album is no rules. Just be yourself. And whatever you write, you write. If it's good enough, I put it on. If it's not, like there were 2 more songs on the album that I took out because I felt like, you know, as the producer wearing that hat, I felt like those 2 songs made the album a little bit too long, and it was just perfect without them. Like it just went from something good to something good to something good. And with the other 2 songs, it was almost like the director's cut and the final cut of the movie.
Yeah.
I took those out, and if anything, maybe someday I will do another version of this album, like a bonus special version that has vocals to the songs, more guests, and it will include those 2 songs and just expand on it. Yeah, so I left, that's, I would say, being a producer, and it was not painful to remove them. It's not like the producer half of my brain is saying, these songs have to go, and the artist half is saying, no, I want everyone to hear every single thing I do. And even if it's not the right thing, it's like, no, they work together. And yeah, so it is not difficult at this point. Years ago, it would have been difficult, but now I feel like I have a very clear vision of things and have faith in my decisions. I trust myself and not a lot of second guessing. I trust my instincts. I trust my ears. I trust how I feel when I listen. And yeah.
Do you record the album? Do you record it in a studio? I mean, with all the guys, or everybody do his part each in a home studio or something like that?
I record everything I do right in this room. All the drums were done in this room. But then everything else, anything that a guest did, they did themselves, and they sent me remotely. They would send it, and I would put it into the song. Yeah.
It is very different from long time ago.
Oh, it's so
You-
different. Yeah. It's so different. And the convenience, it allows for so much more, because would I have been able to get in a room and schedule to have a lot of these guests do it? No, they needed to do it when it was good for them, where it was good for them. And it allows for so many more collaborations. So many more people collaborate now, thanks to the technology being able to, all of us, record on our own and bring it together in recording software or syncing it to tape even. That's still doable. Anything. But we have more and more technology making more and more things possible. Yeah.
So to finish about this album, if you meet somebody in France, perhaps, or who don't know this album, who don't know instrumental music, what will you say to him to push him to listen your music and instrumental music in general? You know.
I would say, if it's not this album particularly, but just the style of instrumental music, I would say, think of the guitar as the vocalist. And everything that the guitar is doing is the storytelling and the voice. And whatever type of music it is, if it's jazz, if it's classical, if it's rock music, whatever it is, just imagine instead of a singer singing, the guitar is doing the singing. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much for the interview. Really, it was a pleasure to speak to you and to understand your music, really, your whole
Merci
universe.
beaucoup. Thank you. Merci à toi.
Merci,
Yeah.
merci beaucoup et à très bientôt. À bientôt en France, peut-être.
I hope so. I hope.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.